This is going to be the second video in a series where I'm showing how easy it is to build small automation tools for auditors, program managers, or anyone that's really involved with government programs. I'm going to be using OpenAI's Codex agent, coding agent to do that. And the real thing that I'm thinking behind these videos is that in government programs and in government in general, AI is really going to be benefiting people who can use it to do the same amount of work with less human input or less human time kind of manipulating and reviewing data. So in the first part of this video series, I automated a very simple workflow that started with a folder of cost report spreadsheets like this. They had 2 tabs of data. We fed that to the coding agent, and it was able to develop this extract script that extracted that structured data, and our output was this combined cost report CSV that took all the salary data, all the district data, and combined it together. And we also created this contact CSV file that summarized all of the contact information included on the first tab. So in this next step, what we're going to do is we're going to build a validation step and a desk review step. The validation step is really going to focus on is the data what we think it should be? What I mean is, are the names in the files text data? Are the amount, the salary amount fields, are they extracting numeric data? The percentages, are those getting extracted correctly? If, for example, we have percentages that should add up to 100% in our spreadsheets, so we're going to validate that. These are kind of just the base rules for should we accept the cost report or not. And that is going to fit in to our overall program expense reporting process. I've just broke it down into these steps, which is what we are going to be automating in this process. So the first step was to extract the data. Second part is to validate the data. And one loop that I showed here is that if anything is not extracted correctly, we're going to send it back to the district for them to fix. And those would be for things like not adding names that should be there, submitting incorrect number information like negative numbers, or having percentages that don't sum to 100%. The next step after that is going to be the desk review step, and those are going to be where we apply what are closer to like program rules. So if you have any salary thresholds, or if you have any percentage thresholds, or filters that need to be applied, that is where we're going to do that. This kind of process I'm talking about today, I've seen it everywhere in government programs. You have a state agency that maybe pays hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe millions of dollars, to consulting firms and to accounting firms, where the goal is to just determine the validity of the data. Is it the data we need? Does it comply with very simple program rules? And then working with the districts to make sure that that information is accurate. This is important work, but it was mostly within well-defined rules. Do the percentages add up to 100%? Are there names in the name field? Do the numbers comply with very simple thresholds and ratios? It's important work, but it's manual. It's applied to everyone in the same way, and that is really a great candidate to be automated. So what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be building on the extract step to add in a validation step. And that's the next step we have here. So far we've extracted the data, and we're going to move on to these other checks. And then at the end of these checks, we're going to have either one or two determinations. Either it is validated and it passed, or it failed validation and it needs to go back to the district for further corrections. So just like before, I'm going to have the full prompt that I use on the GitHub link, but right now I'm just going to copy and paste it. But it's basically just breaking down the types of checks that I need to happen on this validation. It's very directive on the checks to do and what the output I need is. Here, while it's thinking, I'll just review the prompt for a minute. But basically, it's reminding the model what the context is. So we have an extract script here. The goal is to validate the extracted data, perform a simple desk review, all right, looks like it's finished here. And what it did is it added a validate cost reports function to our extract, and it runs right after the extraction. It checks the employee it checks each workbook for non-empty fields, numeric fields, and percent fields. And then each record is annotated with the validation results. So we're gonna go ahead and try to test this again. Well, let's see. It might have already tested this for us. So it looks like it reran the extraction, and what you can see is here is it has added two additional fields: a validation passed and then a validation errors field. And it looks like out of all of our extracted data, there was one record that did not pass validation. And the reason is because the percents did not add up to 1. You can see it. The numbers here are 0.65 and 0.45. So that's obviously more than 100%. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the test that it told me to do, just so I can see it run on my own. All right, so I'm going to go ahead here and get into the right folder. So cd extract data, and I'm going to run the Python command it told me to run. And we have some results here that printed out. So you can see here it says validation failed for the Baton Rouge spreadsheet. So that's that's a summary of the validation process. It loaded 24 salary rows from 6 workbooks, captured 6 contact rows, and then it gives us the export locations here. Okay, so just to kind of review our progress here. So in this folder called Program Management is where we're building these tools. I have the extract data folder, and this is really where all of when I open up Codex, I'm opening it in that extract folder. So that is where everything is getting added to. And what I've done underneath that is add testing folders for the various parts that we're adding on to this automation. So we've tested the validation part, and in the first video we tested the extract part. Now I'm going to be moving on to adding a desk review step. And you can see, it's been 3 or 4 prompts that I've given to Codex, and it's able to build this tool in almost no time, less than 5 minutes of total coding time, I think. And I just want to highlight how much quickness this can add to your processes. And even if you don't understand all of the coding at the very first step. Having this done in just a few minutes allows you to spend more time to understand what is going on in the code, and eventually you can um, level up your processes by adding these kind of automations to whatever it is that you do. Now that we've completed our validation process here, we have a determination of whether each cost report passed or failed validation. And so we're going to move on to the desk review process. And for this, I've come up with just some very simple program rules that we're going to apply to the cost reports. And those are, we need to make sure that, and what I'm doing here is I'm telling the coding agent what are the rules I need to apply. So whatever it is in your situation that you want to apply, you just have to be detailed when you write that out for the agent. But basically, I need to calculate totals. I need to apply I came up with two different rules. One is that no salaries over $60,000, and also if any healthcare percentages are over 7%, that's also going to be a finding as well. So it's going to look at that analysis, flag those findings, calculate any adjustments, and then the desk review is complete. And I also down here I'm telling it to record those results and findings in the database. All right, now that it's working, we're ready for the next step. And so I've just copied that from the GitHub repository that I'm going to share, and I'm just going to paste it in here. And you can see this just has more details about the fields I want calculated. I talked about findings, so we're going to be building on this. So what I told it was for those two findings that I told it to review for, what was the wording I wanted in the end result. So you can see here, anytime you give it a new prompt, it's going to come up with a new plan that it's going to work through to implement that. You can see here it starts with just analyzing the desk review calculations, how they map to our existing data, and then it's going to add the checks that we need to happen. All right, so it worked again for almost 2 minutes. It added the desk review infrastructure into the extract file. It added new fields that aggregate the totals, and it looks like it updated our CSVs, and it updated the instructions as well, which is good. Alright, so it said it updated our file here, so we're going to try and test that next, but let's just see what it output. So this new file here is in the green, and you can see it has this is our summary CSV. So it has each district listed here, the district name, the year end, the file name, and then it has the findings, the results of its analysis of the findings. So you can see here these first two have 0 for employees, so there were no employees over $60,000, but when you get to Monroe, it has it for 1 of 4 employees. We have someone charging over $60,000. We also have the counts over here, and we also have it looks like every single district charged over 7% of total salaries to healthcare. And then we have those percentages over here. So look, so now we have a very, very simple and rudimentary validation, extract, validation, and desk review analysis process automated. Okay, now it's time that we're gonna run this test ourselves to see if this all is recreated the way we need it to. So you can see here again, all I did was create a new test folder called desk review test. It has our spreadsheets and the extract file. And in the terminal, you can see I navigated to this new desk review test folder. Let's go back to the terminal. Oops. I'm going to copy the command again. I'm going to run it, and it looks like we have a bunch of new outputs. So we have that combined file again. We have the contact info still. We have the cost reports database, which we'll keep building on as we go forward. And we also have our desk review findings, which prints out the results of our desk review analysis. And that was all accomplished with maybe 6 minutes of the AI coding agent doing its work and just the 3 or 4 prompts that we've used so far. One thing I want to communicate about this is that as we've gone through all of these steps, we've just been adding on to this one Python extract file. And the reality is that this file is way too long. You can see that down here it's printing the results of all of these steps that this one code file is doing. In an ideal situation, you would have this broken out into maybe a different file for the different main steps that are occurring, but this was just done to show as kind of an example of how easy it is to get this sort of Python functionality with just a few prompts. And you can turn a process that used to take hundreds and hundreds, maybe tens of thousands of hours, and you can do it in just a few minutes. Once you have something like this built, it's easy to come back to the coding agent and say, I need to maintain the functionality of this file, but let's break it up into more pieces, more functional pieces, more modularity. And that way we have something that's a little bit easier to understand, because at this point, maybe something is mentioned at line 100 and then brought in again at line 500, and that's just really not ideal to be having your Python files like that. So at this point, you can copy just these prompts and this kind of pattern for communicating with the agent, and you can take your own cost reports or your own spreadsheets that are based on maybe real data, and you can guide your coding agent to do whatever kind of functionality that you want. So in the next step, I'm going to be building out more reporting steps in this video series, and also we're going to set up this database to have a dashboard component as well.